The Martin Tankleff case is a complex legal saga that began in 1988 and involved issue of murder, false confessions, and prosecutorial misconduct. Martin Tankleff was convicted of murdering his parents, Seymour and Arlene Tankleff, in their Long Island, New York home on September 7th, 1988. Here are some of the details about this case. On the morning of September 7th, 1988, Martin Tankleff, then 17 years old, woke up to find his parents brutally attacked in their Belle Terre home on Long Island. His father, Seymour Tankleff, was found dead at the scene, and his mother, Arlene Tankleff, was gravely injured. Martin called 911 and reported the crime. Emergency responders arrived, and Arlene was rushed to the hospital, where she later succumbed to her injuries. Martin Tankleff became the primary suspect in the case, largely based on his initial statements to the police and the perception that he stood to inherit a substantial amount of money from his parents' estate. The police focused on Martin's purported confession, which he gave during a lengthy and intensive interrogation. However, Tankleff later recanted, claiming that the confession was coerced. Martin Tankleff went to trial in 1990. The prosecution argued that Tankleff killed his parents for financial gain. The key evidence against Tankleff was his confession, despite his subsequent recantations. The defense argued that the confession was coerced and unreliable. In December 1990, Tankleff was found guilty of murdering his parents and was sentenced to 50 years to life in prison. Following the conviction, Tankleff continued to maintain his innocence, and his defense team worked to uncover new evidence. In 2003, private investigators hired by Tankleff's legal team uncovered new leads and potential suspects on the case, including Jerry Sturman, a business partner of Seymour Tankleff with financial troubles. Tankleff's legal team filed a motion to set aside his conviction based on this new evidence. In 2007, the New York State Appellate Division overturned Martin Tankleff's conviction, citing new evidence and flaws in the original investigation. The court found that Tankleff's confession was unreliable and that the evidence pointed to other potential suspects. The prosecution decided not to retry the case. In 2008, after spending over 17 years in prison, Martin Tankleff was released from custody. Martin Tankleff's case brought attention to issues such as false confessions, police misconduct, and the need for criminal justice reforms. The case prompted changes in New York state law regarding the recording of police interrogations to prevent coerced confession. The Tankleff case is a tragic example of a flawed legal process with the wrong person being convicted initially. It also highlights the importance of ongoing efforts to improve criminal justice system and to prevent miscarriages of justice. Seymour and Arlene Tankleff were a married couple who tragically lost their lives in the incident in 1988. Here's a brief overview of their lives. Seymour Tankleff was born on the 14th of February 1931. He was a successful businessman and entrepreneur who was involved in various business ventures, including a garment industry. Seymour had a business partnership with Jerry Stuerman, and they were involved in a financial venture that faced difficulties. At the time of his death, Seymour was only 57 years old. As for Arlene Tankleff, she was born on the 4th of August 1933, and her maiden name was Stuerman. She was Seymour Tankleff's wife and the mother of 2 children, Martin and Sherry. Arlene was known for her involvement in the local community and her charitable work. At the time of her death, she was only 55 years old. Seymour and Arlene Tankleff resided at the Bel Air area, a village of Long Island, New York. They had 2 children together, as mentioned before, Martin and Sherry Tankleff. Of course, on the morning of September 7th, 1988, Seymour and Arlene Tankleff were attacked in their home. Seymour was killed, and Arlene was critically injured, and she later succumbed to her injuries in the hospital. Their son, of course, Martin, had discovered them and called 911 for help. The tragic deaths of Seymour and Arlene Tankleff had a profound impact not only on their family, but on the local community as well. And of course, the subsequent legal proceedings involving their son, Martin Tankleff, brought national attention to issues related to the criminal justice system, false confessions, and wrongful convictions. The Tankleff family tragedy not only left a void in their community, but also became a focal point for advocates of criminal justice reforms, shedding light on the importance of fair and thorough investigations in high-profile cases. The evidence in the Martin Tankleff case was a crucial aspect of the trial and subsequent legal proceedings. The case involved a combination of circumstantial evidence, Martin Tankleff's confession, which he later recanted, and the later discovered information that raised questions about the initial investigation. Here is a quick overview of some of those key pieces of evidence. Martin Tankleff's confession. The prosecution's primary evidence was Tankleff's confession, which he gave during a lengthy police interrogation. In this alleged confession, Tankleff admitted to killing his parents for financial gain. However, later on, Tankleff recanted his confession, claiming that it was coerced and that he did not commit the murders. The defense argued that the confession was consequently unreliable. Crime scene evidence. The crime scene itself provided evidence of a violent struggle. Seymour Tankleff was found dead in his bedroom, while Arlene Tankleff was gravely injured. The nature of these injuries suggested a brutal and possibly personal attack. Financial motive. The prosecution argued that Martin Tankleff had financial motive for killing his parents. They contended that he stood to inherit a substantial amount of money from his parents' estate. Statements from witnesses. Witnesses, including friends and acquaintances, provided statements that were used to build the prosecution's case. These statements were aimed to establish a motive or to portray Martin in a certain light. Alleged incriminating statements. Some witnesses claimed that Martin made incriminating statements or exhibited suspicious behavior after the crime. These statements were presented as evidence of guilt. Legal representation and investigative missteps. The defense argued that Martin Tankleff did not receive effective legal representation during his initial trial. They also claimed that investigative missteps, including the failure to pursue other potential suspects, tainted the evidence presented at trial. Newly discovered evidence post-conviction. After Martin Tankleff's conviction, private investigators were hired by his legal team to uncover new potential evidence pointing to other potential suspects. This included information about Jerry Sturman, Seymour Tankleff's business partner, who had financial troubles at the time of the murders. Polygraph tests. Both Martin Tankleff and Jerry Sturman underwent polygraph tests. Tankleff's polygraph results were inconclusive, while Sturman's results reportedly showed deception. Other forensic evidence. Forensic evidence was presented during the trial to link Martin Tankleff to the crime. This may have included DNA evidence, blood splatter analysis, or other forensic findings. Legal proceedings. The appeal and post-conviction legal proceedings brought to light flaws in the original investigation, including the reliance on Tankleff's contested confession and the failure to thoroughly explore alternate suspects. It's important to note that the subsequent overturning of Martin Tankleff's conviction was based on a combination of factors, including the discovery of new evidence and concerns about the reliability of the initial confession. The case also raised broader questions about the criminal justice system and potential wrongdoings of the conviction. The Martin Tankleff case is a tragic tale of a family torn apart by violence and a flawed legal process. Martin Tankleff was initially convicted of murdering his parents based largely on a contested confession. However, subsequent investigations revealed a range of issues, including potential alternative suspects, investigative missteps, and the possibility of a coerced confession. The case underscores the importance of a thorough and unbiased investigation, the potential for false confessions, and the need for ongoing criminal justice reform. Tankleff's eventual release after spending 17 years in prison serves as a stark reminder of the complexities and challenges inherited in the legal system. To this day, it is still an open case, and still many people believe that Tankleff committed, while others think that it was another party.